Today we're unleashing a domain expansion of knowledge in you all. We're breaking down the most mind-bending, reality-warping, soul-crushing techniques in the Jujutsu Kaisen universe. Alright, curse users, before we dive into the depths of Jujutsu Kaisen's power system, let's lay out our domain expansion of knowledge. We're breaking this cursed analysis down into 5 major categories, each more mind-bending than the last. First up, we're dissecting cursed technique users. We're talking about sorcerers who can bend reality with a flick of their wrist. From Gojo's Limitless to Megumi's 10 Shadows, we're leaving no technique unexplained. Next, we're expanding our minds with domain expansion masters. These are the big guns, folks, the reality warpers who can trap you in their own pocket dimensions. Prepare for some serious sure-hit, sure-kill action. Third in our list, we're sharpening our knowledge in cursed tools wielders. Whether it's Toji's inverted spear of heaven or Maki's arsenal of death, we're covering the non-sorcerers who can still throw down with the best of them. Fourth, we're facing our fears with special great sorcerers and curses. These are the monsters that keep even Gojo up at night. From Yuta's copycat abilities to Mahito's soul-crushing powers, we're diving deep into what makes these beings so terrifying. And last but definitely not least, we're unraveling the mysteries of binding vow specialists. We're talking about the risk takers, the all-or-nothing players who push their techniques to the limit. Nanami's over time, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Let's start with the cursed technique users because there is just so much to unpack here. We're talking about abilities that defy the laws of physics and common sense. Take Gojo Satoru's Limitless, for example. This technique is based on the mathematical concept of convergent and divergent sequences. Gojo can manipulate space itself, creating an infinite space between himself and anything else. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. His reverse cursed technique allows him to use blue attraction, red repulsion, and purple annihilation. The applications are mind-boggling. He can literally erase matter from existence. Take examples of some of the most epic fights that showcase these insane techniques. Remember the Gojo vs. Jogo fight? That wasn't just a battle, it was a masterclass in technique application. Gojo's Limitless technique on full display, the way he used blue to attract Jogo, then red to repel and damage him, all while casually dodging every attack, pure poetry in motion. And when he busted out purple, that was game over. The sheer destructive power of combining imaginary mass with imaginary space to create a void that annihilates everything? Mind-blowing! But let's not forget about Jogo in the fight. His disaster flames were no joke. The ability to create and control volcanic eruptions is terrifying enough, but the way he used them strategically, trying to overwhelm Gojo's Limitless, that shows the depth of thought that goes into these cursed techniques. But Gojo isn't the only monster out there. Let's talk about Sukuna's Dismantle and Cleave. These techniques allow him to cut anything without even touching it. The precision is so insane that he can perform surgery on himself mid-battle. And don't even get me started on his fire arrow technique. The ability to create and control flames that can burn cursed energy itself, that's just broken. And let's talk about the Sukuna versus Mahoraga fight. This wasn't just a display of raw power, it was a tactical chess match. Maharaga's wheel of perception allows it to adapt to any phenomenon it experiences. We saw it adapt to Sukuna's slashing attacks, his fire arrows, and even his domain expansion. But Sukuna's battle intelligence shone through. The way he combined different types of attacks, used the environment to his advantage, and finally overwhelmed Mahoraga with a combination of domain expansion and fire arrows? Tactical genius. Then we've got wildcards like Toge and Umaki with his cursed speech. The ability to infuse commands with cursed energy to control others or even damage them? The potential applications are terrifying. Imagine if he said something like die to a crowd, and let's not forget about Kenji Hakari's Idle Death Gamble, a technique that turns his battles into literal gambling games where he can hit the jackpot and gain infinite cursed energy. The risk-reward factor there is insane. Oh, and we can't overlook Yuta Okotsu's ability to copy and use other sorcerers' cursed techniques. The versatility this gives him in battle is unparalleled. Combine that with his massive cursed energy reserves and his cursed tool Rika, and you've got a powerhouse that can adapt to any situation. Now, let's dive into domain expansions because this is where Jujutsu Kaisen's power system really shines. A guaranteed hit technique that creates a separate space where the user's cursed technique is enhanced? Sign me up! Gojo's Infinite Void is probably the most conceptually complex. It floods the opponent's mind with infinite information, effectively paralyzing them. But Sukuna's Malevolent Shrine is equally terrifying in its own way. It doesn't even need a barrier, and everything within its range is subject to Sukuna's slashing attacks. But it's not just about the heavy hitters. Look at how strategically some characters use their domains. Megumi Fushiguro's incomplete Chimera Shadow Garden gives him incredible mobility and the ability to store and summon creatures at will. And Dagon's Horizon of the Captivating Skanda, an entire beach dimension complete complete with death swarms of sea creatures, the creativity there is off the charts. And let's talk about how domain expansions interact with each other. When two domains clash, it's not just raw power that determines the winner. Factors like compatibility, refinement, and the user's understanding of their technique all come into play. Remember when Megumi used his incomplete domain to disrupt Dagon's? That was a game changer. Cursed tools add another layer of complexity to the power scaling. These objects imbued with cursed energy can level the playing field or tip the scales dramatically. The inverted sphere of heaven, capable of nullifying any cursed technique it touches, is probably the most game-changing. In the hands of someone like Toji Fushiguro, who has no cursed energy of his own, it becomes a great equalizer against even special great sorcerers. But it's not just about nullification. Look at Playful Cloud, a cursed tool that amplifies the user's physical strength to insane levels. In the hands of someone already physically strong like Maki Zenin, it becomes a weapon of mass destruction. And let's not forget about Rika, Yuta's partner cursed tool. The sheer versatility she provides, from extra cursed energy to physical combat support, makes her invaluable. Oh, and we need to talk about special great cursed objects like Sukuna's fingers. These aren't just power-ups, they're potential catastrophes waiting to happen. The fact that ingesting even one finger can turn a normal person into a curse, that's a whole other level of danger. When it comes to special great sorcerers and curses, we're talking about beings that break the scale of power in the Jujutsu world. Gojo Satoru is often considered the pinnacle of Jujutsu sorcerers, with power so overwhelming that the mere idea of sealing him away is enough to change the balance of the entire Jujutsu world. But he's not alone at the top. Yuta Okutsu, with his ability to copy techniques and his massive cursed energy reserves, is a force to be reckoned with. Yuta Okutsu's fight against Kuroshi during the Culling game was a perfect showcase of why he's a special grade. The way he copied Yuro's technique mid-battle to counter her attacks, all while unleashing devastating strikes with his cursed sword, was mind-blowing. And let's not forget about Yuki Tsukumo, who we still know very little about but is hyped up to be on par with Gojo. On the curse side, we've got monsters like Ryomen Sukuna, the undisputed king of curses. Even at a fraction of his full power, he's able to overwhelm special great sorcerers. Then, there are the disaster curses like Jogo, Hanami, and Mahito. Each of them embodies a primal fear of humanity, giving them incredible power and unique abilities. Mahito's fight against Yuji and Nobara demonstrated why he's considered special grade. His idol transfiguration allowed him to reshape his soul to avoid fatal attacks, and his domain expansion nearly spelled doom for our heroes. Jogo's fight against Sukuna in Yuji's body is another great example. Despite being overwhelmed, Gojo showcased why he's special grade. With his disaster flames and maximum meteor technique, the sheer destructive power he displayed was terrifying. And we can't forget about binding vows and heavenly restrictions. These self-imposed limitations that grant increased power are what make Jujutsu Kaisen's power system so interesting. Look at Nanami's overtime, where he gets a massive power boost after 7 p.m. Nanami's overtime is a perfect example of a powerful binding vow. In his fight against Mahito, we saw how his power significantly increased after 7 p.m., allowing him to push Mahito to his limits. Or Maki and Toji's heavenly restriction, which stripped them of all cursed energy but in return granted them superhuman physical abilities. It's all about equivalent exchange, and the strategic applications are endless. Even simple binding vows like revealing your technique to your opponent in exchange for a power boost add layers of strategy to every fight. And then there are complex vows like Machimaru's, where he sacrificed his original body to create an unstoppable puppet with massive cursed energy reserves. Machimaru's ultimate Machimaru, seen during the Shibuya incident, was the result of an extreme binding vow. By sacrificing his original body, he created a powerful puppet with massive cursed energy reserves, capable of going toe-to-toe with grade 1 sorcerers. And let's not forget Todo's use of a simple binding vow during his fight with Hanami. By revealing his technique, he received a power boost that allowed him to land a black flash, turning the tide of the battle. Man, just talking about all these fights and techniques gets my blood pumping. The way Gigi Akutami waves together these complex power systems to create intense, strategic battles is just chef's kiss. Each fight is like a puzzle, with characters having to outthink and outmaneuver each other using their unique abilities. And we haven't even touched on how all of this ties into the broader themes of the series, the idea that Jujutsu sorcerers are fighting against the tide of cursed energy created by negative emotions, the philosophical implications of Mahito's soul manipulation, the question of whether curse users are born or made. It's enough to make your head spin. See you and bye.